Herzog, lay speaker at the Napa Methodist Church, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this time of worship. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us today. We hope you're finding your way through this time of deliberate separation without too much trouble. I know I've become aware after participating in video meetings and keeping in touch with friends and family through social media that the experience of this time in exile is very different for each person involved. It may be a common time that we share, but individual experiences are very personal. We react differently. An old friend of mine who lives in rural Stanislaus County has named their hill country home the Fortress of Solitude. I like that. It shows spirit. We offer to you this carefully stitched together worship experience today and send it with love from the households involved in its production. It comes straight from our heart. This is the third Sunday after Easter in the season of Eastertide. Our theme is the heart of the matter, and you'll find heart language in the scripture passages today. We hope you'll sense in our words and music that this worship experience comes straight from the heart. But that's enough from me. Let's get on with our story.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Fuqua.
And I'm Mason Reed.
And we're going to read Psalm 28.
To you, O Lord, I call, my rock, do not refuse to hear me. For if you are silent to me, I shall be like those who go down into the pit. Hear the voice of my supplication as I cry to you for help. As I lift up my hands toward your most holy sanctuary, do not drag me away with the wicked, with those who are workers of evil, who speak peace with their neighbors while mischief is in their hearts. Repay them according to their work and according to the evil of their deeds. Repay them according to the work of their hands. Render them their due reward.
Because they do not regard the works of the Lord or the work of God's hands, they will be broken down and built up no more. Blessed be the Lord, for God has heard the sound of my pleadings. The Lord is my strength and my shield, in God my heart trusts. So I am helped, and my heart exalts, and with my song I give thanks to God. The Lord is the strength of the people. The Lord is the saving refuge of God's anointed. O save your people and bless your heritage. Be their shepherd and carry them forever.
Hi, I'm AJ Reed, and today I'm going to be reading Luke 24:13 through 24. That same day, two of them were walking to the village Emmaus, about 7 miles out of Jerusalem. They were deep in conversation, going over all these things that had happened. In the middle of their talk and questions, Jesus came up and walked along with them, but they were not able to recognize who he was. Jesus asked, What's this you're discussing so intently as you walk along? They just stood there, long-faced, like they had lost their best friend. Then one of them, his name was Cleopas, said, Are you the only one in Jerusalem who hasn't heard what's happened during these last few days? Jesus said, What has happened? They said, The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene. He was a man of God, a prophet, dynamic in work and word, blessed by both God and all the people. Then our high priests and leaders betrayed him. He got him sentenced to death and crucified him. And we had our hopes up that he was the one about to deliver Israel. And it is now the third day since it happened. But now some of our women have completely confused us. Early this morning they were at the tomb and couldn't find his body. Some of our friends went off to see the tomb to check and found it empty, just as the women had said, but they didn't see Jesus.
Hi, I'm Kayla Fuqua, and today I'm going to be reading Luke 24, lines 25 through 35. Then Jesus said to them, So thick-headed, so slow-hearted, why can't you simply believe all that the prophets said? Don't you see that these things had to happen? That the Messiah had to suffer and only then enter into his glory? Then he started at the beginning, with the book of Moses, and went on through all the prophets, pointing out everything in the scriptures that referred to him. They came to the edge of the village and where they were headed. He acted as if he were going on, but they pressed him. "Stay and have supper with us. It's nearly evening. The day is done." So he went in with them. And here is what happened. He sat down at the table with them. Taking the bread, he blessed and broke and gave it to them. At that moment, open-eyed, wide-eyed, they'd recognized him. And then he disappeared. Back and forth they talked. Didn't we feel on fire as he conversed with us on the road? He opened up the scriptures for us. They didn't waste a minute. They were up and on their way back to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and their friends gathered together, talking away. "It's really happened. The Master has been raised up. Simon saw him." Then the two went over everything that happened on the road and how they recognized the risen Christ when he broke the bread.
Dwell in the midst of us. Come and dwell in this place. Dwell in the midst of us. Come and have your way. Dwell in the midst of us. Wipe all the tears from our faces. Dwell in the midst of us. You can have your way. 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 Not our will, but yours be done. Come and change us. Not our will, but yours be done. Come sustain us. Not our will, but yours be done. Come and change us. Not our will, but yours be done. Come sustain us. Dwell in the midst of us. Come and dwell in this place. Dwell in the midst of us. Come and have your way. Dwell in the midst of us. Wipe all the tears from our faces. Dwell in the midst of us. You can have your way. 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 You can have your not our will, but yours be done. Come and change us. Not our will, but yours be done. Come sustain us. Not our will, but yours be done. Come and change us.
Good Sunday morning, friends, wherever you're joining us from. We're glad you're here. I'm Pastor Mary Lee Sheffer, and I'm preaching outside in one of the most beautiful places in the world, the Napa Valley. Many of us are participating in Napa Methodist Church worship from safe distances. And our hope and prayer is that all of these elements of worship bless you and strengthen you for these challenging days of sheltering in place. Today is the third week of Easter, and we're beginning a new sermon series called The Heart of the Matter. Today's gospel story is familiar, maybe overly familiar to some of us, but in this time of pandemic, we're invited to hear it with the ears of that first Easter. Jesus' disciples were huddled in fear behind closed doors, their broken dreams still crashing around them, and grief and bewilderment becoming the new normal. I'm guessing all of us can relate to some of how they were feeling, and we can learn from them how to find hope and courage, how we can take heart in an extraordinarily difficult time. Two of Jesus' friends, Cleopas and probably his wife, were walking, not just the road to Emmaus, but the road of broken dreams. All that had been accomplished in their 3 years with Jesus, healing the sick and feeding the hungry, inviting sinners and outcasts to experience God's inclusive love, and revealing that all people are beloved of God. All that Jesus had told them and shown them were signs of God's kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. All of that had gasped a dying breath on the cross and been laid in a tomb. This conversation between the two disciples could have taken place anywhere, but Luke's gospel tells us they were on the road, they were moving. This is because even when we're shocked and grieving, life moves on. This is because God's kingdom is always on the move. And this is because even when we're sheltering in place, the Holy Spirit is moving in us, encouraging us to reach out to others, to share more freely than we might have, straight from the heart, how much we care about each other and this world that God so loves. Jesus met the two on the road and conversed with them, first listening to their grief and disappointment and then giving them a history lesson. I don't think the history lesson is the important part of this conversation, but that our history with God is terribly important. In times of stress and fear and loneliness, we remember God's grace, that is the love and kindness and partiality God has for all life, was first evidenced in the beginning when God created this beautiful home that we call Earth. Earth Day was a quiet human celebration this year, but Earth herself and other creatures demonstrated loudly that when we shelter in place and when we are more mindful of what we spew into the atmosphere, creation has an opportunity to rest and to heal. The history of God's grace is evidenced in the delight God took in creating Earth and its inhabitants. Our own history of God's grace is evidenced in the love we have received and returned throughout our lives, in opportunities we've had to use our gifts to serve others, and in the beauty of this place we call our home. Our history with God is crucial to recall when we're walking on the road of broken dreams, because we can become bitter and vengeful when we're hurting, instead of realizing that God walks with us in love and solidarity with our suffering, instead of realizing that God can use or redeem our suffering to help others heal. The disciples walked the road to Emmaus with Jesus, not able to recognize him. It's easy to miss him when we're sorrowing and fearful, and it's easy to miss him when everything's going our way too. Noticing Christ with us is challenging. We need, as Jesus said, eyes to see and ears to hear, and spiritual practices that help attune us to the presence of his love. The risen Christ was recognized by his friends in an act of love and hospitality in the breaking and sharing of bread. One of the ways we make Christ known in the world today is in acts of hospitality. This time of pandemic is moving us to practice hospitality in new ways and with greater intentionality, with more heart. We can't assume our neighbors are okay or that people we care about know we love them. We can't support xenophobia or anything else that divides the earth as one people struggling to survive. We can't ignore the needs of those who don't have the comfort and security that we have. Because when we do any of these things, we don't reveal the risen Christ who walks this road with us. Meals were important to Jesus, who was criticized for how many he shared with the wrong kind of people and how much he seemed to enjoy all of them. Shared meals have spiritual significance throughout the Bible as signs of God's intimate care for the needs of humanity, of Israel's longing to gather again as one people, of Jesus' inclusion of all people, of the table of love and sacrifice he invited his friends and betrayers to. The risen Christ blessed, broke, and gave bread to his friends, and then he disappeared. His actions spoke to them of his continuing mission. His followers are to bless others and to sanctify this life. We are to break open barriers that divide us and break down systems that oppress and deny the full humanity of all people. And we are to give all that we can so there is enough for everyone. The broken hearts of the disciples turned to burning hearts. They asked each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us when he talked with us on the road?" A heart broken from disappointment and suffering can be healed when it burns with love and compassion for others. The disciples' hearts were on fire, which they didn't keep to themselves, but went and told Jesus' other followers. And gradually, the disciples came out from behind locked doors and left their shattered dreams behind, and their broken hearts became hearts that burned for others to know the God of love revealed in Jesus Christ. The heart of this gospel story invites us to do three things. When walking the road of broken dreams, look for the risen Christ who walks with you. Bless, break, and give in acts of love and hospitality as Christ did. And recognize a burning or a broken heart as God's invitation to you to ease the suffering of others. Love is the heart of the matter, friends. It's what God has put in our hearts to share it. It's what makes us truly human, and it's what reveals God's presence, what reveals the risen Christ with us. Next Sunday, we're going to celebrate communion. In preparation for this sacred meal, I invite you to break some bread, perhaps as a family activity, to set the table, perhaps with an extra chair for loved ones who aren't with you, or a chair for the risen Christ to be with you, to light a candle and to imagine the church throughout the world celebrating with us. Will you pray the Lord's Prayer with me, friends? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. God bless you.
Why morning. I'm Bill Hanna, Chair of the Finance Committee, and I'd like to thank you all for attending this worship service this morning, although I do wish it was in our sanctuary and we were all together face to face. I'd like to start out by giving you some of the financial activity that's occurred over the past few weeks. First off, we're running very close to budget on the pledge income, and that warrants a big thank you to you all for keeping current in your pledges. The nursery school and the chamber music have also maintained their rental payments, even though they are not currently using the facility. We had a church council meeting on Monday night, and as part of that church council meeting, we had an extraordinary charge conference. And the purpose of that charge conference was to authorize our application to the Small Business Administration for a payment protection plan loan. And we have not yet received any monies or know whether we will be funded once the current round of funding takes place. Also at Church Council, we voted to authorize utilizing the residual monies in the Circuits Initiative accounts to provide to the Napa Food Bank to help feed the hungry in Napa. And then finally, for the Easter offering, your continued generosity raised nearly $4,000 for the pastor's discretionary fund, and that money is going to be used to help out members of our congregation who are struggling to make ends meet. We're not yet sure of the extent of that need, and because of that, Pastor Mary Lee and I asked you to continue giving to that fund. Any extra that you might have after you make your pledges. Anything that you do provide extra, please mark it as part of the Easter offering so it can go into that fund. So thank you all again for your support, and I look forward to seeing you worshiping together in our beautiful sanctuary. Blessings to you all.
Hello, folks. Keith Kalara here, Director of Youth and Family Ministries, and I am here to share some good news and community announcements. So, first off, we have the beginning of Switchboard Sunday Worship. This is going to be a way that we can share our Sunday worship services through a phone service instead of through the internet. That way, folks who don't have a computer can participate and stay up to date with our worship services. If you know someone who doesn't have access, we as a church are reaching out to folks we know. But if you know someone who doesn't have access, please connect them to this information that went out in the latest e-blast. That way we can make sure that no one falls to the cracks. Thank you very much. Secondly, we have raised nearly $4,000 through our Easter offering, and that $4,000 is going to go into the pastor's discretionary fund. Now, this fund will be used to help congregation members who are struggling to make ends meet. Now, of course, we have a lot of people who have been laid off because of the pandemic, and this is just a great way to make sure that all of us are taken care of. If you would like to continue to contribute to this ministry, please call the main office and we can figure out how we can get that done. If you are a family who is in need, also please call the main office, and we'll definitely make sure that we can connect you to the best services, and we'll see if we can help out as well. Our Immigration Sanctuary Ministry team has reached out to Puertas Abiertas to learn how we can best support the immigrant community. And they found out that the biggest need is a financial one. So we are donating nearly we're donating $5,000 out of the sanctuary fund to Puertas Abiertas so they can distribute it amongst families in need. There are also ways that you can help directly. Gift cards are a great way. If you can take gift cards that are either from Target, Walmart, grocery stores, or from Mexican grocery stores, if you can bring them to Diane in the church office, she can send them to Puertas Abiertas, and they will distribute it out to the families who are most in need. Another way is to just send direct financial donations to Puertas Abiertas. They're located on 952 Napa Street. Thank you very much. Next, along with several other nonprofits across the Napa Valley, we are starting a toilet paper drive. If you have a roll or two that you can spare, please go ahead and drop it off at the Napa County Food Bank. It's located at 1766 Industrial Way. If you live outside of Napa County, I'm sure if you contacted your food bank, they're probably desperate for some toilet paper as well. So, this is, as far as I can tell, this is a pretty universal need. So, find out where you live. If the local food bank could use some toilet paper, they probably can. Lastly, I think actually, Napa is starting this really cool initiative, and they're calling it, what are they calling it? They're calling it Love Notes, hashtag together while we're apart. It's this really cool program where we're distributing templates for notes that you can send to folks who are probably feeling pretty disconnected at this time. If you know any extroverts in your social circles, or you know someone who is an essential worker, like a postal worker, grocery store worker, healthcare worker, or a caretaker in private homes, LGBTQ youth, new parents, older folks who are either living alone or in care facilities, we have note templates that you can print out and send to folks. And there will be tons of people throughout Napa who will be doing this. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to send it in the last e-blast. So what I would say is stay tuned for the next e-blast. It'll probably be coming Monday. Sorry, excuse me. probably be coming in Monday. And you'll be able to find a template that you can send out to folks. This is just a way that we can help spread the love and help take care of our folks who are feeling pretty depressed during this time of social isolation. Anyway, I think that's all the news I've got. Thank you very much. Hoping to see you all soon. Miss you all. Much love and blessings. Bye.
Well, that was really quite wonderful. And I'm glad you were here to share in this worship experience. Time for me to say a few words of farewell for now, and you already know what I'm going to say. Wash your hands, keep your distance, and be patient. There's a rising undercurrent lately of resistance to sheltering at home. And I understand that the restrictions are a hardship for many, and there's a natural desire to take our lives off hold and get on with it. But people are dying. There is persuasive evidence that following the rules, keeping your distance, washing your hands, has a positive effect on slowing the spread of this COVID-19. So just do the right thing. I want to borrow some words of patience from Simon and Garfunkel, and do not be alarmed, I'm not going to try to sing this. But slow down, you move too fast. You got to make the morning last, just kicking down the cobblestones, looking for life and feeling hopeful. But actually, that's not the last word. For that, I want to go to the prophet Micah, who proposed a simple answer to a complex question. What does the Lord require of you? To seek justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. And when you walk with God, there's no need to keep a safe distance. Actually, the closer the better. Amen.